and we will call this meeting of the Village of North Bennington Board of Trustees to order. It's Tuesday, October 9th. We're at the Village Depot offices, and the first order of business is to review and approve the minutes of September 11th, 2018. Have all present had the opportunity to review the minutes? Mm-hmm. Is there any objection to the minutes being approved and entered into the record?
No.
Hearing none, we'll have the minutes approved unanimously and ask that we we consider the monthly warrants and the improvement of the payment of the bills. And let's start with the payroll warrant this month in the amount of $6,892.41. Any questions regarding that? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the payroll warrant in the amount of $6,892.41.
So moved.
Seconded?
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And none opposed. So let's go ahead and sign that. And let's see. It's gonna take me a second to pull up the other.
Oh, here. Here's the main warrant.
Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to look at it.
Yeah.
All right, so the main warrant for tonight and our village expenses for, to be approved today, October 9th, 2018, include
There's a large
Just-
weaver payment.
yeah, I'm looking at any extraordinary ones that we purchased some salt, it looks like, a payment to Midtrone, BGS Fed surplus.
What was that?
What's,
Do we know what
The
that is?
9,500
that was that, heater unit.
Oh, yep, the,
that you've had for a while.
no, the,
Yeah, we've had for a month or two,
The pavement,
right?
yeah.
But it was supposed to be like 12 grand, so we beat them up.
okay. And then and also a great acquisition, I think, in the power wash unit that we purchased, which I think is really gonna help to maintain the equipment. We got a piece of machinery that's able to go underneath the trucks to power wash them from underneath, so that, I mean, that's the part that you really need to get washed, so.
Right.
Norm was able to get a good deal on that, as usual, and he indicates that Art Whitman has used a unit similar to that on his units or his trucks, and has had good success with that, so I think that was money well spent. We got our payments to the Graded School and to the McCullough Library. And then the,
Water Street project.
Weaver, yep.
yeah, the Water Street Culvert project for Craig Weaver in the amount of $30,000, which we had anticipated.
And we'll get reimbursement for much of that, right?
We got reimbursed $12,000 for last year's. Through
Yes, we just
paperwork
got-
and dating out receipts, so
We just got that, I was gonna mention that.
pretty well there as well. But we're gonna get, yes, I think it's at 80/20 match.
Right, great.
Nice.
And then if you could add a check for $3,000 to Lake Perrin.
Okay.
It will be check number 10738. It will bring the grand total to $88,586.51.
Well, I would make a motion to accept the warrant.
I'll second it.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And There's none opposed, so the motion carries. It should be entered. That was in the amount, Mary, you said 88,000. So,
586.51.
thank you.
Sure.
Great. Okay. So I guess we can move to citizen comments, if there are any.
Don't seem to be.
Trying to think. I'm trying to think of any comments that I've had over the last month from any citizens. The only one that was mentioned to me was that are there culverts that run underneath Hall Street?
Yes.
And
It actually runs underneath Hall Street, through a private drive, onto a garage that was allowed to be built, and out into the field.
so that's kind of a problematic area.
It's very
Right,
problematic.
okay, all right.
We
And-
flushed it this year with that big vacuum unit that we got a couple years ago, and got the water to run. We had a
Okay,
big plug in it, I sent a picture at one time, and sent it, well, I sent it everywhere.
okay. And, all right, well, I think as long, I just, obviously when there's anytime the problem's in your driveway or on, your side of the street, then you know about it. But I think what our responsibility as a board is just to make sure that we're aware of our infrastructure and that we are, properly maintaining it, and it sounds like we are, and that we understand that there is a problem there, but it may be a problem that is very difficult to fix without a whole lot of both.
Yeah, we haven't had any problems last month, we blew it out the month before, sort of,
Yeah, okay,
so. I mean, it's a typical, that area, there's a lot of trees, it gets plugged with leaves, the homeowners mow grass onto it.
yeah.
There's a lot of other issues that create a problem there, but I mean, nobody's
You don't,
called the office or talked to me about it.
okay. No, I was asking from the highway perspective. I'm not, there hasn't really been any complaint as far as I'm concerned, but I was asking more from the highway side. Do you feel that is causing the road any issue, is what I was asking. Is there any,
No, but I think it needs to be, at one point in time, we'll need to change it before we ever pave that road.
gotcha. It'll be on the list of culverts that are due to be replaced at some point in the future.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
There's sewer that runs under a house over there on the corner of Hall,
They very well could be.
and there's issues that
yeah,
haven't wavered. But
okay, well, that's the only thing I can think of.
The landowner the garage is built on is not the same person who built that,
Yeah,
but anytime we've ever needed to get to the backyard, it's always very cooperative.
okay.
We don't have any big issue.
Okay, yeah, I'm just, that's not a comment on citizen comment. So I think if there's nobody knows of any other citizen comments, we'll move on. To the treasurer's report, please. If you're ready, we can come back to it.
No, that's fine. I actually don't have anything to hand out. Tax bills are out.
Okay.
They were mailed, postings are out. I have only 3 that have been returned, which I could not find an owner. So if you know of anyone who's moved, the owner of record, whoever owned it as of April 15th, is the person who gets the bill. So properties that have sold, some people have returned them. Sometimes they had forwarding addresses or not. But we are getting our payments in on a regular clip. And most of the mortgage companies have sent their reports in. So they should be properly recorded. There are some people that I know should qualify for prebate, but is not yet noted on their tax bill. Late filing can happen up until October 15th. There's a penalty for late filing, but it's better something than nothing. So I expect that I will have a number of bills that will be revised up until November 1st, which is the latest that the state sends out any revisions.
And due date is when?
Due date is Tuesday, November 13th. There is a notice hanging in the post office. There's one, the same notice will be going in the banner, and one will be going in on that window. The Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday previous to that, I'll be here at least for some hours collecting, and pretty much most of the day on Tuesday, the 13th.
Okay.
Oh, I did want to mention that in addition to getting the grant monies, the 12,000 plus for last year's sewer or storm repairs, we have an odd percentage, but it was 56 and a fraction of a percent of that bill that was paid for the Perrin water aquatic nuisance
Yes.
study. We got a little bit of that back. And then the last reimbursement that I had for the Main Street sidewalk, they actually called and said, oh, they overpaid us. So there's a small check for $112 in that list that you approved, and that was paying that back. And I assume there was one invoice that I meant to ask about. Was it $300 or so? Was that the Main Street sidewalk?
No, Holton Street sidewalk.
Holton. Okay, was there anything, any of these guys that were Main Street sidewalk? I think it got coded over to Main Street at 300 for Weaver. So you want, that belongs to the
Holton Street.
Okay, all right. Then we'll revise that and expect to then get our reimbursements trickling in for whatever we expend on the roof project.
Great.
Can I ask about the status of the audit?
You can ask, but
Okay.
I don't have any update for you.
Go to them for that information.
Actually, I just need to get over there and ask. I was talking to Norm about it the other day. I need to find out specifically what it is that they're waiting for.
Okay,
They have all my records for 2 years,
yeah,
and I know in a discussion some months ago, they wanted some way to approximate what our assets should be in terms of village roads and
oh
sidewalks.
yeah, that's right.
So I don't want to start asking Norm or Norm and I to sit down and do any calculations without knowing exactly what we should be aiming for.
Yeah.
And honestly, I just have gotten a little busy and haven't gone over there.
Is,
We'll put that on the list.
is that something that like in the next month or two is, like reasonable to look at, or because it seems like it would be a good time for them just because it's before tax season, but it's also not
It was
really
actually on
over.
my list to do as soon as I got some of these taxes,
Perfect.
bills gotten out.
No, I know
and
you,
done.
but especially for last month,
Yeah,
you were very busy
because
with other
we
stuff.
really, the goal is we really want to have it for our next annual.
Yeah, that's what I was shooting
Yeah.
for,
Yeah,
hopefully.
so I will absolutely put that on my list, and thank you for the reminder.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding the treasurer's report? Okay. Highway report, please.
Well, I mean, we shut the fountain down today, got that all winterized. Everybody's boo-hoo-hoo, but We've watched the weather report, it's gonna snow in the mountains on Sunday, so, you know what I mean, it's not too early. So that should be covered sometime next week. Finished up Holton Street sidewalk, we're just waiting on a couple crosswalk signs to show up. We're all set to start leaf welfare as it promptly ends November 6th, as we had talked about, but that'll give everybody 3.5 weeks. And if you look around, there's a lot of leaves already falling. So we'll start cleaning up that, and then we have our own projects to make sure we're ready for winter. We've ordered some salt from one of our vendors. We ordered another load from Appalachian, which is a new person that's got the state contract. So we got a load coming from them tomorrow, and probably in November, I'll order another one. You know what I mean? We got our sheds full because it's pretty empty from last year. And other than that, we just hope for the best. Paving, obviously the rain delay is keeping it delayed everywhere. They're scheduled to be here this week. I don't personally think that's gonna happen for mainline paving. I know they were grinding, I mean, they were working in the village this week, today, right around here, so. And they're getting on it, so. When we know something, we'll know something.
Typically, when does the plant close?
Usually it used to close religiously at the Friday before deer season, but now it's stayed open as the temperature allows it into a week or so. You know, it all depends. Sometimes they close for a couple of days and then they'll fire it for a day. When all the vendors have a bunch of work, you know, they get them all like try to work on a certain day because it's a lot of money to fire that thing when it gets cold.
Are there any contractual deadlines or penalty deadlines for this work?
I think for the state there was, but, you know, I think they're gonna be given at least a grace period. I mean, you know, the rain, they got no control over the amount of rain we've had. I mean, you look at it, like just us grading Park Street, I got on it the other day, because figured, you know, they'll start getting a lot of traffic on it, when they do pave Water Street. But even that, you know, it rained the next day, you know, so you just, you know, there's no week stretch anymore in the last month and a half. I mean, we've had crazy amount. So, I know they've worked some Saturdays, they don't usually do that.
I mean, obviously, if winter came and this job wasn't done, that would be a real problem for plowing and
It
all
would be a
that.
real problem. And I think the state
They get
understands
that, I'm sure.
You know, I have no doubt that the contractor understands that as well, you know, so that's one of the reasons we got some salt extra early. I mean, you have to melt it off on Water Street. You couldn't, there's no way you could plow it with all the manholes and water shut offs, and, you know, it would be a nightmare. So let's hope we don't have to deal with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what you do.
So we do have a contract thing that we talked about with John earlier that we need to go over afterwards.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Development Review Board, update?
We met a couple of weeks ago. We addressed extending a permit on a garage that hadn't been completed within its year permit, and it got its extension for 6 more months. We addressed the Masonic Temple, is it Masonic Temple? On,
Thanks, Street.
thank you, being converted into a single-family home, and they got approval for that. And then we had a long discussion with the conversion of the old nursing home into a writer's retreat with multifamily housing is how it's being sold. So it would house up to 3 families, but within that there would be 12 rooms that people would be residing in. And they're gonna change the parking lot area, but they didn't get a warning out to their abutting neighbors, so a next meeting is happening next Tuesday to finish that off and hopefully decide on a permit or not for it.
Is that address 20 Prospect?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I have a rather large zoning fee receipt check that I received today for that.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah. The gentleman in charge of it seems to have dotted his i's and crossed his t's. He's closing on it on the 18th if we proceed and say yes.
Is there any connection with this gentleman in the college? or-
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I think he attended one of their writers' programs. He's from Manhattan. That's about all I got. Oh, we also voted to always have a standing DRB date as the third Tuesday of every month.
Nice.
And we have a chair and a vice chair, Jim being the chair and me being the vice chair. And we just won't have a meeting if there's no DRB issue. But our next one is next week.
So just so you know that, that's always the water department's meeting, but we do have two sides to this building.
Okay.
I don't
Well,
know
it's
what's
flexible, we
there.
can re-vote it if we need to.
But their meeting is always after our meeting, the
Okay.
following Tuesday.
The following Tuesday, okay.
So that would be next Tuesday.
Right.
And if you need to know any of those dates, I keep the calendar, so you can just ask me.
Okay, I think we just kind of bandied around dates, like a standing date really quickly, but there was no one here to tell us not to. So we can pick
Unless
another day.
Wednesday was the
And the
first.
new
That's
chairperson,
right.
he's taking over Dennis's duties.
Maybe. We have to vote. We're gonna vote for,
Oh.
for their.
That's on the agenda today. So yeah, so that's where we are with that. There is a meeting next week. Is there a water meeting too?
There's a water meeting Tuesday.
Yes.
Which is when we were gonna have our meeting.
But that's all right. You guys can meet.
But there's two
over here.
sides
Yeah,
to
okay.
the building. I
Okay.
mean, yeah.
Not to mention the water
Upstairs.
usually meets for about 20 minutes, so. I
Okay.
mean,
All right. well, we
There's
can
plenty of room.
I commend the initiative to get back on a schedule of a regular meeting. I think that's really important.
Well, up to last meeting, we hadn't had a chair
There wa-
assigned.
Exactly, and there wasn't really a whole lot going on for a number of years but now things are.
As long as I've been on it, we've had about 3 meetings, so
Yeah.
now we're getting busy.
Yep.
And we got more.
I don't know if there wasn't anything going on. There might not have been anything.
Well, there was a while
There might not have anything being submitted to the board.
Norm, what do you got?
He's knocking on wood so that we don't have more.
First Tuesday is a perfect day.
Third,
Uh,
just
Okay,
Anyway.
so
carry on.
I don't believe we have a report from the fire department. I think there's been a couple of fire alarms that went off, but nothing serious as far as I understand. And from the water board, we do have a letter from the chair of the water board submitting 2 names for consideration for the expiring term of David Shaughnessy. So they're 5-year terms for the Board of Water Commissioners. And David Shaughnessy would wish to be reappointed for another term if the board so chose. And they gave us an alternative, Ron Pembroke, who has previously been selected as an alternative. Should we not find Mr. Shaughnessy or other.
David has been a really great addition to the water board, and have full confidence in his abilities, and I would make a motion to appoint Dave Shaughnessy to another 5-year term on the water board.
Okay. Mr. Boudreau seconds that. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And there's none opposed. I think I have the original letter here, Lori, if you want to just enter that in the record.
I have a question for something I just noticed.
Yes.
Usually the green lights on our mics are on, and they're not now. Are we actually transmitting audio? Okay. Just,
Because I split them in the mixer, turns them off.
okay.
Thank you for noticing that. All right. The other, there's a couple other orders of business, but one, and maybe we can, we'd like to appoint a zoning administrator. We had an interim zoning administrator that has now submitted a resignation effective January or sooner if we can find a replacement, and it's my understanding that there is interest or potential request to be appointed by Mr. Chris Damon, who's here with us tonight, and I just asked Mr. Damon, are you willing to serve as the zoning administrator for the village?
Yes.
Okay, and I know Mr. Damon, some, and we've talked before. It seems very interested in the issues and seems to have quite a background in the state of Maine and perhaps before that. But do you want to maybe just give us a brief description of any experience that you might have in that area, and then we can go ahead and, it's not like we have other candidates, but I think just so we do record these, so if, somebody might be interested in knowing.
Well, one of the interesting things I can find is that there are no qualifications for zoning. So I kind of fit right in. But I have familiarity with the town plan and with the zoning ordinances in the town. And previously, as you mentioned, I did have experience in the state of Maine. I was on the planning board, which was like your DRB here. I was on the comprehensive plan, which is like your planning commission. And I was also assigned to regional planning. And I did that for a period of 6-7 years.
Great.
So then I kind of worked my way up through that process, and I rather enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to coming here and doing simple work.
We managed to get Chris on the planning commission officially recently, and you've been in the community for a number of years now. And
Yes, I've been here for 12 years.
Yep. And he's already working with Dennis McCarthy, and they both thought that, well, Dennis thought it'd be good to, make an appointment as quick as we could so that Chris could work with him and kind of see what's going on. And I make an enthusiastic recommendation that Chris be appointed as our zoning administrator. And we wanted, you had some thoughts about that, whether you would be the interim, or no, Dennis is the interim.
No, he's currently the interim.
That's right.
We have talked, we've known each other for a number of years, and we've talked about this on several occasions. I've gone down and talked to Jim Sullivan through the BCRC, and Catherine as well. And Dennis thought he would stay on and still be the active alternate, the ZA, until I got up to speed, or January, whatever comes first.
Right.
He's more than willing to stay on and kind of assist and drive and train. So that's why we're coming now, so that we can get some of that training in and be a smooth transition rather than a quick jump start.
And it seems that there's some projects coming along that are perfect for that, for you guys to work together on. And with that, I would make a motion to appoint Chris Damon as our new zoning administrator for the Village of North Bennington.
Second?
I think I would make an addition or an addendum to that motion, which is that if I'm understanding it correctly, we'd be also moving Dennis McCarthy's position to an alternate zoning administrator, but I just want to be clear that I think the only reason that matters, it doesn't, I think the plan that you outlined is perfect and works for everybody, but I think the only issue that I could see coming up later is that I'd want both of you to have authorization to do work for the village and be paid for it.
That's correct. That's the way it's set up. You would be the alternate.
Right.
Be the ZA. As they recommend, you have that set up that way,
Yeah.
so that there's the ZA plus an alternate. And you both had equal
Yeah.
jurisdiction.
Yes.
so to speak, decision-making.
And in fact, Dennis, I think, has always been officially the interim,
Alternate.
well, he's been an interim. He never wanted to take,
Okay, I
but
understand.
if you want to rename his position as an alternate, we can do that as well.
I think if we do that, then it can just stay like that, because, you know,
Right.
if he's willing to stay as an alternate CA.
But Dennis is willing to stay on until January.
Until
Oh,
January.
only until,
Yeah.
only until January.
So at that point, if we want to continue, if that's the way it should be set up, we should be actively looking for
An
an
alternate.
alternate.
Okay.
A new alternate.
Yes, for when Dennis
Yeah.
officially steps aside completely. Is that
Yes.
kind of the plan again?
And then if I'm out of town or
Mhm.
Right.
circumstances, then a second person can step in. Because a lot of these issues are
Time sensitive.
Times,
sensitive.
yeah. Sure.
So you can't step away for 2 weeks and come back and find out you're behind.
Okay. So the pending motion will be to appoint Chris Damon as zoning administrator and move Dennis McCarthy to alternate zoning administrator. Is that, would you
I would.
And re-second? Okay, any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And there's none opposed. That motion carries unanimously, shall be entered.
So just a quick question on that. Would you actively be looking for his replacement when he decides to go, or do you have anybody in mind?
Being that I'm this new, I don't, but I would be actively seeking somebody.
I mean, I was just curious, because I mean, obviously it should fall on us if that's, but if you
Yeah,
had somebody in mind already, or ever hear of anybody, certainly let us know so we can,
If I was,
that would be something we might want to start looking for now,
It could be.
realizing that.
yeah, as part of
Somebody from-
coming on to the planning commission, I was actively seeking somebody to step in and take that
Sure.
place.
Actually, a DRB member
Okay.
can't be
No,
ZA, because they can be on the planning commission,
okay.
but they can't sit on the DRB.
Right.
So, once we finally get our planning commission fully,
Could be someone from the.
then it could be somebody from that. Or if you find somebody who would also want to be on the planning commission, then they'd be a good candidate for the alternate, I would think, yeah.
And you're still looking for one more person on the planning commission right now?
Really, two.
How many are there? There's
Three. We are
If you vote unanimously, you can carry motion, but not
Right,
otherwise.
you can't.
exactly. And we have an issue that we have to deal with 2 weeks from now that is going to require all of us to deal with adopting the new town plan, with the great work that's been done by the BCRC. And then that'll be coming back to the trustees for approval. But I think we've got that all set up that we're going to be able to do that. But if there's anybody who would like to get involved with planning issues, certainly get in touch with us.
I did talk to Becky Manning, Marjorie Manning's daughter.
Yes,
She seemed like she would be interested,
all right.
so we can connect.
Will you connect us
Yeah.
by email?
Yeah, I can do
That'd
that.
be great. I've met her once, but, yeah.
Okay.
So welcome, Chris, and thank you for taking this on. It's been a few years of turmoil in the community with the tragic passing of our previous ZA, and I think it's good that we're getting this going, and I'm glad you stepped forward, and
Thank you.
looking forward to.
I think it would go well with Dennis Sullivan, knowing that Jim Sullivan's.
You've got
Or anything.
You've got incredible resources for sure at your hands, yeah.
All right. We also are scheduled tonight to adopt the emergency management plan.
I don't know.
What are the initials?
I don't know.
Local Emergency Operation Plan?
Yeah.
LEOP, Emergency Management Plan. Has anybody have we had an opportunity to review that, or?
It's been, this was going around
I think it was sent.
a long time ago, and I just sent out the signed version that I already signed effective this date. We've been over it many
I
times.
do see it. Yeah.
What it is just an updating of
The plan that's already been in
the
place.
plan that's been in place, and there were very, very few changes, just changing some names and places and contacts and all that. But it's the plan that really our emergency personnel use, you know, primarily the fire department
Yeah.
in dealing with, yeah. I mean, that's current, it's just
Yeah.
not, yeah.
The connections, it's the who to contact, where to go,
Yep.
and there's different scenarios for different types of emergencies.
And so we're just dotting the i's here to,
And it's not unusual that we would have I think Janice had been the point person. We had always had a member of the board addressing this
yes.
issue, and so they would take that on, and it wasn't something that was continually brought before the board. It was just somebody's dealt with.
Well, no,
BTRs.
it always has to be readopted.
Right.
But Janice always did the work on it, and then, when she, stepped down, we floundered, as we would when we don't have, people in charge. So, once again, the BCRC's been really helpful with all that, and when we met, to talk about the town plan, they just wanted us to, you know, dot the i's, cross the t's, and so I signed that document effective tonight. And so all we need to do is have a motion to adopt it.
Okay. Well, I've had a chance to look it over, and I would be in favor of approving it if someone wants to so move.
I move to approve.
Okay.
I will second.
Mike seconds. Any discussion? And all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
There's none opposed, so motion carries. The emergency management plan is adopted and
And now effective.
enter that in the record. One last thing before we adjourn.
No, I have another thing.
Okay, couple, I don't know if this is new
Oh, yeah,
business,
go ahead with
so,
that.
we were asked by the local Rotary organization to recognize and declare that October 22nd through 28th would be the Rotary Week in North Bennington, Vermont. That's for October 22nd through 28th, 2018, if I didn't say that. And so I've drawn up a resolution offering that as Rotary Week in North Bennington. Whereas Rotary International is a worldwide organization which is dedicated to improving the lives of people around the globe. Polio eradication, clean drinking water in every community, and world peace are the major goals of the international endeavors of Rotary. Whereas the local clubs are formed and encouraged to identify and fulfill needs in their own communities. And whereas across the nation and the free world, every city or town of any size has a local Rotary club. Worldwide, there are over 1.5 million members. And whereas in Bennington, there are 2 clubs, the Catamount Rotary meeting in the morning each week and Bennington Rotary meeting at noon. There are 2 clubs in order to accommodate the schedules of the diverse membership. Both clubs are united in the principles of Rotary and the service for the greater Bennington area. Whereas both Catamount and Bennington clubs have completed hands-on projects such as public botanical projects, historical restorations, park projects, veterans care, children's literacy events, fuel oil assistance, and more. Additionally, both Rotaries conduct fundraising events in order to provide college scholarships for high school students. And whereas jointly the clubs sponsor the Interact Club, which is a program to interest high school students in community service, and we are resolved that in honor of the good and charitable work that the Catamount and Bennington Rotary clubs provide to the citizens of our great village, town, and state, we proclaim October 22nd through 28th, 2018 as Rotary Week in North Bennington, Vermont. And I've signed that as of today's date.
So moved.
Move.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Second?
I second it.
Okay, and all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there's none opposed.
They do incredible work in this community, and
You should recognize Mary as a voter member.
Mary, thank you for your
Service.
Your work with that.
I am pleased to mention that in just the Bennington Rotary Club alone, the club had 812 hours of volunteer activities that they performed July through September of this year.
Fantastic. And my daughter was a recipient of the scholarships that have been given, and really very, and the Interact Club is a fantastic thing at the high school.
We're trying to set one up, Rotaract, to involve college students.
Oh, cool.
So,
But, yeah.
yeah, we
Be in touch
have,
with
one of
me.
our newer members was involved in one in her previous club, so we're hoping to draw on her
That's great.
expertise.
That's great.
And can I just ask that I think a copy was requested to be sent either back to Mary or back to the organization.
Sure. Keep the original. You should keep the original.
Thank you.
You just gave-
Any other business?
Yes.
Proper tonight?
Okay.
New business, I've been in discussion with my wife and Emily Hunter and with Jeff Gray, who's the president of the tree committee. And if you don't know that, in most communities there are tree wardens. There are people who deal with the issues of trees and preservation when possible, or dealing with sick trees and all that. And with my new job out of town, more so than I used to be, and all, my wife Emily and I have been co-tree wardens since probably 97 or somewhere around there, when we were asked by Short Aldrich, who was the tree warden at the time, and I think probably one of the founders of the tree committee, Mrs. Stuart Aldrich's mother. And when she became aware of her illness and that she would not be with us into the future, that she asked that Emily and I take that over, and we were very honored to be asked and did so. And we're happy to keep with that. Emily is still on the tree committee, but Jeff is now the chair. And we thought it would be good to have somebody who's in town to be available when there are issues that arise. And we agreed that we would ask the board to appoint Jeff Gray as another co-tree warden in the community, who can deal with issues when there might be a homeowner who's out there deciding to cut down a tree that's in the public right of way, or who might want to address concerns about how trees in the public space or on the public right of way are being dealt with, to be able to make decisions that are binding within the laws of the tree laws that exist on state statute. So I'm making a recommendation, and hope someone will maybe make a motion to appoint Jeff Gray as a additional tree warden in the village of North Bennington.
I would make that motion.
I'll second it.
I would just want to clarify that with these, that all three of you would have independent authority to make any decision that needs to be made, as opposed to if you would, in one sense, if you're considered wardens, that you wouldn't be deciding things as a committee, though. You would have
is
independent authority to make a decision alone.
Or at least to potentially intervene with something, and then, you know, if there's,
Obviously, you're gonna discuss things
Of course.
and agree on things, but that if someone made a decision, it wouldn't be, you know, called into question by somebody else that's also.
Right. No, we just want there to be a presence such that when something's happening, you know, sometimes something might happen where a tree's been cut down that really shouldn't have been because they didn't, you know, and so if there's someone around who can speak for the trees,
Okay.
you know, or it's another set of eyes looking at issues of sick trees or trees that are potentially dangerous or that really need to be dealt with, and that can be brought to the tree committee and or the village and or Norm if he's able to help. And by the way, recently, I guess you guys Norm helped above and beyond with a tree that was on Park Street, correct?
Norm speaks for the chainsaw.
I know he
Not
does.
the tree.
I know that. And this is why we need to, it's a nice balance, really. But thank you, by the way, for that. That was a great help, I think, for those people and for that neighborhood and all that. So, and I think the wood's gonna be put to use and all that, so anyway, is there?
Okay, no opposition. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye,
We enter that into the record.
thank you.
Do we have any ash trees in the North
Right, so
Bennington
that's-
area that need to, yeah?
So that's something that's being addressed by the committee and looked at, and there's help with the state, and there's some other local tree surgeon
Yeah,
activists who are looking at the situation. I'm not sure I'm ready to go out and cut down every ash tree that's in the community, but certainly a monitoring process. You know, it's only officially the emerald ash borer has only been found in a few locations, but one of those is Bennington County, I think. So it's, the writing's on the wall with that, and people need to be aware that you don't cut these kinds of trees and transport them all over the place. To lose American ash in this community would be a pretty big percentage of the trees that we have. This is not unprecedented, of course. We've dealt with that with chestnut and elm, and we will probably deal with it in the future with hemlock and, you know, many other trees. So people need to be aware that these living systems, you know, stuff's happening out there. They're not just shade, but keep an eye on if a tree in your yard is showing signs of damage or illness. It's worth letting people know so that they can deal with it. And I think this, at the state level, they're very interested, in particular with ash, wanting to know what's going on. So, good point. That's all I got.
Okay. I just had one comment before we adjourn, if there's no other business, which is that the Pentagon budget is roughly $700 billion, now over 50% of the entire federal government operating budget, and since around 1992, there's been a congressional mandate that it be audited, but that's never been done, and I think that it's important that we have open access to our government resources and that there be accountability, and I think that it would be worthwhile to try to see whether or not there can be any pressure put on either the Office of Management and Budget or someone to try to insist that there be an audit of that massive federal spending. Obviously, that's nothing that we have control over, but I just thought it was an issue that was important to be raised in a public forum. So I have no motion to make other than that I may, on my own behalf, personally contact our representative, but, that's just my personal opinion.
Thank you. I appreciate the perspective. I was remiss to mention with respect to the tree committee, we lost a really great member of this community in the last few weeks who was the chair of the tree committee for many years and a powerful positive force in this community. Maurice Kahn passed away, it may have been just last Tuesday. Maurice was dedicated, he was an educator in New York City, but spent the last many years in Vermont with his wife Peggy at the farmhouse at the Park McCullough estate, and was instrumental in rejuvenating that entire space, the gardens, was very much involved in the restoration of the grapery that was acted on by the Fund for North Bennington. But Maurice was a really special guy, and this community will miss him. I'll miss him dearly. And when you go up to the Highland Hall Garden and spend some time up there, you can see the work that he's and his energy that he put into that over many decades. So.
Thank you. Having no other business, we'll move into an executive session and then adjourn after that's completed.